This stock has been destroyed since the beginning of the year price-wise, but the fundamentals tell quite a different story. And that's why I am buying more now. Hi, this is Fabi from The Next Big Rush, where we talk about growing your wealth through smart investing. If that's anything you'd like, then click the subscribe button and the little bell right next to it so that you don't miss any of my future videos. Now, before we get into this stock, I would like to say that one big lesson that I can take from this is that when you have a bull case, when you like a stock, you should always look into what the haters say. Do they have a point? Don't just push it aside. Start to think about what are the true arguments as to why that investment thesis may or may not be a good one. So you have to listen to both sides of the story, and you have to be able to articulate the opposite side in order to really use that as a filter for your investment thesis. Now, this is what happened to me. I am a long-time holder of the stock, but I own very, very little of it, and I am increasing my position now because what's happening is I am looking at all the people who don't like the stock. I have been reading about why these people don't like the stock, and even after reading it, I'm sitting there going, this stock is still pretty darn cheap, you know? They're still doing what they promised to do. They're already producing gold, which in this day and age for a smallish company is a huge feat. And so I don't want to make up your mind about any company, whether it's A or B, but I decided to actually call up the CEO of this company and ask some of the questions that I had that came up during this sort of due diligence process. And I was actually very happy with the answers. So I am bringing this chat that I had with the CEO with you right now. I am talking about Fiore Gold. I'm sure you've heard of Fiore Gold, very much associated with Frank Giustra. Love him or hate him, he really knows how to bring a stock to market and market it. This is the interview that I had with Tim Warnman. I have here with me today Tim Warnman, CEO of Fiore Gold. Now, Tim, first of all, when I look at a company, I like to look at the people behind the company, the people that are actually taking care of our money per se, our investors' money. And I like to look at a few things. I like to know what kind of experience they have, if they know what they're doing, and if they're good, honest people that have a proven track record. That's a huge plus for me. So can you please just let us know quickly what kind of experience you have and the other people on your management team, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I'm a geologist by training. I've been working in the industry close on 30 years now. I've worked all over the world, Africa, Europe, South America. Strangely enough, I haven't worked in Canada very much, and now, of course, in the United States. My background, I've been involved with probably some of the more successful names from the last sort of 10 or 20 years. Aurelian Resources, some people might remember the Fruta del Norte discovery back in 2006, which we subsequently sold to Kinross for about $1.2 billion. I was the VP Corporate Development at Aurelian. I was also president at Dalradian Resources for a number of years. They're developing the Kernell deposit in Northern Ireland, and Dalradian was just recently taken private by Orion. And I was also on the board of Continental Gold for about 8 years. I left the board earlier this year, and obviously a very successful discovery with Newmont as a co-investor in Colombia. And now we've shifted to the U.S. with Fiore Gold.
And so about Fiore Gold, what can you tell me? I know you're a producer, and I'm disclaimer, by the way, I'm a longtime shareholder, albeit small. I do intend on buying more shares in the near future. But just let us know, what is Fiore Gold all about, and what have you guys been able to accomplish within the last couple of years?
Yeah, so Fiore originally started out as Fiore Exploration, which was a more Latin American-focused Explorco. But at the time, we started looking for some more advanced projects, either near-term development or production assets. And as we looked in Latin America, we started to broaden our focus a little bit. And we came across a little private company called GRP that had bought the former Midway Gold assets out of bankruptcy in 2016. And we looked at the assets and their plan to turn those assets around, and we really liked what they were doing. So in 2017, Fiore Exploration and GRP combined to produce Fiore Gold. And we've been operating as the new Fiore Gold entity for about a year now, actually. And the two main assets that we picked up in that transaction were the Pan mine in Nevada and the nearby Gold Rock project, which is a sort of advanced exploration / development project. Pan had a bit of a checkered history. It had been attempted to be put into production by Midway Gold back in 2015. That didn't go so well for a number of reasons, including a lot of debt on the project, that Midway had, and a somewhat awkward capital structure, and they ended up going bankrupt. But we knew that wasn't really the assets that were the issue, so we proceeded to turn those assets around, and really 2017 and into 2018 marked the first full year of running the mine at a sort of full production rate of about 14,000 tons a day of ore. And we've actually succeeded in doing basically what we said we're going to do, which was to turn that mine around and make it into a profitable gold producer. And in fact, we've delivered the last 2 quarters of pretty significant operating cash flow from the asset. And at the same time, we said we were going to push the Gold Rock project through permitting for a full mine build. And just about a week ago, we received the final record of decision on the Gold Rock property, which completes the federal permitting process in the U.S., which is the long process for a full mine build at Gold Rock. And we're now continuing to drill on that project with the aim of making it even larger. So that's really kind of the highlights of the past year.
When we look at Pan Mine, and we know that there's, this sort of history of trouble with the company that held it, what has your team done, and what are you planning to do, if anything, in the future in order to change that story? Because, as an investor, my question is, okay, so if there was an asset here that didn't work for this one company, what did you guys bring to the table that made that a different story?
Yeah, well, there were a couple of factors that I think made the difference. And not the least of which was the fact that Fiore has no debt. We bought the assets for $5 million back in 2016. And when you look at it, Midway Gold had probably spent close to $100 million building that mine, and probably another $100 million over the years on the discovery, exploration, and development of that project. So we're obviously benefiting. Yeah, we're obviously benefiting from a lot of money that had been spent by Midway. And really, there was no kind of rocket science attached to the turnaround of the mine. It was really just recognizing that what Midway had done was initially, and they were trying to reduce the capital cost on that project. They decided to do the first couple of years of the mine life as just a straight run of mine, even though the feasibility had been done assuming a crushing circuit on the project. And a lot of people think that it was the lack of a crusher that was actually what ultimately led the mine not to work and Midway to go bankrupt. But in fact, that's not really the case, and I think we've demonstrated that by running the mine without a crushing circuit for a year now and making pretty good money at it. What it really needs is ore blending, and the deposit has 2 very different types of ore, very clay-rich ore from the south part of the deposit and very rocky, silica-rich ore from the north part of the deposit. And what Midway had tried to do was just simply mine the southern clay-rich ore as run-of-mine ore. And that really caused a lot of permeability issues on the leach pad. Simply put, the leach solution that was placed on the material that was sitting on the pad just wouldn't soak in. It just ponded on the top and burst out the sides and didn't work. So what we did was started blending. First of all, we mined a considerable quantity of the rocky northern ore, put it on top of the clay ore that Midway had already placed on the pad before the bankruptcy. We blended that in to increase the permeability of the material that was already on the pad. And then going forward, we've simply blended the material on the pad at about between a 60-40 and a 50-50 ratio to ensure that we maintain that permeability through the pad. And it's been working fine. It wasn't, as I say, it wasn't rocket science. It was really just a a fix that Midway didn't have time to do because they, because of the amount of debt that was piled on them. They just ran out of time and ran out of money.
So what's the plan going forward with Gold Rock? I know that news came out that you guys have a permit that you've just mentioned. What is the plan for it?
Yeah, so that was a long process. That permitting process was originally started back in 2013, and the baseline studies started several years before that. And so it was a long road to get through. But what this has really done is put Gold Rock kind of 5 to 8 years ahead of really any other comparable project in the U.S. And what it means now is that we're actually working the technical work on the project, just trying to catch up to the permitting in some regards. So we're currently drilling on that project right now. We want to show that there's potential to grow that project fairly significantly. We put out an updated resource a few weeks ago, just based on the existing historical drilling, so that we could bring that resource up to kind of current standards and talk about it in a current way. And the thing to note is that there's an indicated resource of about 238,000 ounces at a grade that's about 60% higher than the Pan mine, and another inferred of 180,000 ounces, again at significantly higher grades than Pan. And at the same time, it's a very similar mine to Pan. It's an open pit, run of mine, heap leach operation, or at least it will be, and that's how it was mined. Briefly when it was mined back in the late 1990s. But that in itself, we don't think has quite hit critical mass, and we want to show that we can grow that. So as I say, we're drilling along strike from that deposit, and we really see a lot of exploration potential there to continue to grow it, because there's about a 13-kilometer belt of soil geochemistry and structure and alteration and the right kind of geology that extends right through the property. And the current resource only occupies about 2 or 3 kilometers of that. And that same geology that hosts the mineralization at Gold Rock is the same geology that hosts the mineralization at Kinross's Bald Mountain mine just to the north. And Bald Mountain, I think, currently has a reserve of about 2.2 million ounces in proven and probable. And that similarity and that exploration potential is why Kinross is actually a shareholder of ours. They came in as the lead order on the financing we did when we did the acquisition of the Midway assets. So anyway, just to sort of round up again, we're currently drilling on it. Obviously, there's still some more metallurgical studies and some engineering studies that have to be done on there. But really, the rate at which we advance advance Gold Rock is up to us now with the federal permitting process behind us.
As an investor, I'm looking at this and I'm sort of ticking boxes in my head, right? I'm going, okay, top management, tick. I'm going, no debt, tick. Cash in the bank, tick. Producer, tick. And, safe jurisdiction, tick. And so all these things are being checked in my mental checklist, but your market cap doesn't seem to reflect that. And the share price has been really suffering as of late. What is the plan for you guys to actually grow to be, within that sweet spot of, say, producing 150,000 ounces of gold per year? What is the plan to get there?
Yeah, so I mean, as you say, our share price has suffered, and it's been a common phenomenon with gold companies across the board, but particularly some of the smaller producers like ourselves. And I think, in a nutshell, the reality is we're at the small end of the scale right now. We're going to produce roughly 35,000 ounces in fiscal 2018, which just ended. We're hoping to grow that to sort of between 40 and 50,000 ounces in fiscal 2019. But fundamentally, I think we're going to need to take part in a much needed consolidation of smaller producers in the U.S. and particularly in Nevada and some of the surrounding areas. And that's really I guess now that we've got Pan working smoothly, now that we've got Gold Rock permitted, our corporate focus is going to turn to trying to drive that consolidation. We've done a bit of work on it, but coming out of the Beaver Creek conference and the Denver Gold Show, we had a lot of interest, and we've met with a lot of management teams with a sort of a common vision. And I think we can see that there's real potential to start putting together some of the smaller producers like ourselves, so that ultimately you're looking at a 150 to 200,000 ounce producer with the production spread across multiple assets, so that you don't have the reliance on a single asset, because single asset companies also can can get hit by a bad quarter. We see that with companies like Rox Gold or Guyana Gold, where they rely on a single mine. I would much rather see a sort of 3 or 4 mine company, but with a, as I say, a nice steady production, and less reliance on a single asset. So that's really our goal for the coming year.
I understand that you have some very vocal critics to your company, but I just feel like this stock is almost too cheap, and I think that's the salesperson in me thinking, yes, okay, like this is good value. We are at a moment in the market where all of the smaller producers are undervalued. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them are. What would you say? How would you counter the criticism that you guys have received lately?
I think I think a lot of that criticism comes from some people having a problem with one of our founders, Frank Giustra. Frank has been a very strong supporter of the company. Frank and his colleagues, they're still significant shareholders of the company. Having said that, they don't take any sort of day-to-day role in running the company. They very much leave that to management. And I think, at the end of the day, we've delivered on what we said we were going to do. A year ago, we said we were going to turn Pan around and make it a profitable gold producer, and we've done that. We said we were going to get Gold Rock permitted at the federal level, and we've done that. And the one thing we haven't accomplished that we set out to do was to do at least one M&A transaction and add another producing asset or near-term production asset. And really, that's going to be the focus on the year, the year going forward. That's our plan. I think we've been very transparent about it. And I think that's all you can really do is try to say, look, tell the market what you're going to do, come up with a clear plan, and then execute on it. And I think so far we've done pretty well.
Thank you very much, Tim. Can you just please let us know where we can find more about the company and what is the ticker symbol for Fiore?
Yeah, so we're on the Venture Exchange. The ticker symbol is fairly straightforward. It's the letter F. And then we are also on the OTC market in the US, FIOGF. Then our website is fioregold.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tim.
All right, thank you.
Now, this was my very first CEO interview that I actually brought to the public. Not that I haven't been speaking to other CEOs, but I want to know from you, is this something that you want to see more in this channel or not? Please comment below, and if you like this video, hit like and subscribe, because you know what? There's a lot more coming your way. Take care.